Cheers folks, welcome to episode 1 of Beginner's Guide to Coil Building. Today what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be working on this tank. This is my Kanger sub-tank mini, and what we're going to be putting in here is a single coil. It's what's called a micro coil, I believe, because the coils are touching, or maybe not touching, but they're very tight together. And what we're looking at is we're going to be using 24 gauge Coil A1. We're going to do 7 wraps around a 2.5 millimeter rod or jig, or equivalent drill bit, or screwdriver, and we're going to mount it, and we should come out to about 0.6 ohms, somewhere's in there. And yeah, we're going to walk you through it. We're going to hold your hand and walk you through the process from start to finish. Right from cutting the piece of wire off your spool to vaping the shit out of it. So that's the plan. In a moment we'll move over to the workbench and we'll get this started. So thanks for watching and cheers. Cheers and welcome to the build portion of episode 1. Our first build today is we're going to do something really simple. We're going to be using our Kanger sub-tank mini, and what we're going to be putting in that is some 24 gauge Coil. We're going to do 7 wraps, and what we're going to be looking for is somewhere between 0.5 and 0.7 ohms. Should be about 0.6, but essentially that's what we're going for. So we're going to get right to it. We're going to start building it. We're going to try to get through this quickly. Of course, if you're going to be building along with this, you'll be able to pause the video, do what, replicate what I've done, and continue watching. So, here we go. Okay, the first thing is when you're taking your Kanger sub-tank mini RBA Plus deck, and the plus, it's the plus because it has the juice holes in the side of the barrel. There you can see it. And the first thing you're going to want to do is remove your chimney cap, and you just unscrew that off the top. Put that aside. Then you're going to want to loosen your set screw. Now, a good tip, do not remove the set screw. I'm going to show you the set screw here up close. That little screw in the side of the deck that's on the barrel, you do not want to remove that screw. You do not want to lose that screw. What I suggest is just give the screw a half turn to a full turn, just enough to loosen the barrel so that you can then pull it straight off the deck. Alright, now I'm just going to remove the build I have in here. Now, if you've never built before, yours is going to be rather clean. In fact, yours is going to have a coil in it. If you'd like to start, you can jump to the wicking process and try wicking that build that you have and see how that goes. It'll be a good debate. But I assumed you tuned in because you wanted to learn how to build your own. So that's what we're going to do. There's our deck. Next thing we're going to do is build our coil. I'm going to take my 24 gauge Coil, and I'm going to take off one revolution of the spool. I'm not sure how much that is, maybe about 6 inches or so. And I'm going to clip that. And we're going to put this on our coil master. Now you may want to use something else, an equivalent size drill bit. What we're looking for here is a 2.5 millimeter wrap, and we're going to do 7 wraps. And essentially what we're going to do, that's 7 full wraps, and what we're going to do is I'm going to put it on my coil master, and I'm actually going to do 8 wraps, and then I'll end up pulling off 1 wrap off the ugly side, so to speak. So here we go. Start it with your finger. Again, if you're doing this on a screwdriver, whatever's comfortable for you, you'll find different ways. You'll find what works for you. This is what works for me. I love my coil master. And again, like I say, we're going to do 8 and pull 1 out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 full wraps. And by a full wrap I mean that the leads come off the coil in opposite directions. Right? Now I am going to put it back onto the jig. I'm going to put it back down by the base, take a pair of pliers, I'm going to grab that really bent up funky lead and I'm going to pull it, and I'm going to pull one complete wrap out of the coil. So now again the leads are now again going the same way, but as you can see it's not a twisted bloody looking piece of crap. It actually looks pretty good. Now let me see if I can get that in focus for you so that you can see what this coil looks like. There you go. That's a microcoil, meaning the wraps are touching each other. Now this is a simple process. I'm just going to put one side in and I'm going to trap that lead under one of my screws. I do want to try to keep the coil centered over the airflow hole at all times and tighten that down. And then I'm going to trap the other leg. In fact, I'm just going to push down the coil just a little bit. And I'm going to trap that other lead under the other screw. And when you first put it in, that's essentially what you're looking for right there. Get that in focus and show you. I just have the coil sitting very high, as you can see. I just have one leg trapped under each screw, and they're nice and tight in there. They're good. What I'm going to do now is just trim the leads. Make sure you do hold the tips of the wire as you snap that or cut it. This will tend to go flying across the room, and guaranteed, or pretty much guaranteed, you'll find it with your foot at the most inconvenient time. And trust me, a piece of Kanthal stuck in your foot is not a good feeling. So there you go, there it is trimmed. As you can see, it's pretty simple, pretty basic. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to put my mandrel, or you could use your drill bit or your coil master, whatever, whatever you have that's handy, that you have that's 2.5 millimeters in diameter. I'm going to put it back into the coil, and I'm going to straighten the coil. I'm going to manipulate it by pushing it, and I'm also going to push it down towards that airflow hole because I do want it close to that airflow hole. The closer it is, the less likely I'm going to get spit back and gurgling. So again, I just want to get that down on there. I want to push it down, and like I say, I do want to try to get it as close to the deck as I can, more or less. But leaving some space. I don't want it touching the deck. And when you're done pushing, you should end up with something that looks like this. Let's wait for my camera to decide it wants to focus. And if you look at that, you can see the space, there you go, between the deck and the coil. It's nice, it's lovely. And you can see what the coil looks like. That's 7 wraps, 7 full wraps. Okay. Next, we're going to want to remove the hot spots from the coil. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it on a device. Now you have to be very careful when you go to remove the hot spots. You don't want the device firing at a very high wattage, because if you do have hot spots, you don't want it, melting the leads, or basically ruining your coil. That wouldn't be a good thing. So the first thing is I'm just going to turn on my mod. I'm going to switch it into power mode for Canthal, and I'm going to move the wattage down to about 15 watts. Like I say, pretty low at this point. Now, as you can see, there it is, 15 watts. And we're just going to pulse this, just pressing it periodically. You'll start to see smoke come off of it. You may even see something glow. But ultimately, we just want to keep warming it up to see if and where there are any hot spots. And there should be, because you almost can never wrap a coil perfect first shot. So as you can see, it's heating up on one side. I really want you to see this because I want you to understand what a hot spot is. Okay, let me get this in focus for you. Okay, and you'll see as I start to heat this coil, you see that one side is heating up first. That's a typical hot spot. We don't want that. What we want the coil to do is heat from the center and move out evenly towards the outside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch these coils a little bit. I'm going to get them hot. I'm going to let them glow a little bit, and then I'm going to pinch them together. And I'm just holding it. I'm not firing it right now. I'm just holding it. If you see some smoke or vapor coming off, it's probably because there's a bit of juice on my tweezers or juice on the RBA. Again, I'm just going to heat it up till it glows, and then go in and pinch it with my ceramic tweezers. You don't want to use metallic tweezers for this. They'd end up getting hot very fast. The ceramic is meant for grabbing hot things. The other point of that is you don't want to fire it. If you had metal tweezers and you accidentally were holding it and leaned against the post, for instance with my ceramics, I could fire this with it still being in the tweezers. If those were metal, I'd create a short and I could end up damaging my mod or my battery. So definitely, if you're going to get into building, you'll want to invest in some ceramic tweezers. Okay. Now I do have that pressed and it is still heating from one side to the other. The next thing that you're going to want to do to try to remove that hot spot, what I'm going to want to do now is take a flathead screwdriver and just strum my coils a bit. I'm not pressing very hard. I'm just strumming the coils like as if I was strumming a guitar, you know? Not very hard at all. And then I'm going to test fire it again. And already you can see just from strumming it, let me get it in focus, already just from strumming it you can see we're now getting glowing from the center towards the outside. And essentially that's what we want. That's what's going to give us a good vape. No hot spots, and some just nice, really nice vapor. Alright, that's looking really good. I'm very happy with that. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wick it. Now you could leave this on your mod to wick it. I would suggest, since you're new, and more than likely you are new, I can't imagine an experienced builder watching this video. You are going to want to wick this. You're going to want to let it cool, and usually when I wick, I'll go and put it on my little building stand. This is a great little thing. It's 510 threaded and holds my device tightly. I'm going to use some cotton bacon. It's the type of wick that I'm using. And I'm just going to... Now this piece might be too thick. Alright, now that I've got the cotton pulled through, it's pretty tight. I can still pull it back and forth, as you can see. It's in there nice and snugly. I said snugly. Anyway, I'm going to trim up this cotton now, and I want it a little bit past where the edge of the deck is. I'd rather have a little too much than not enough. If you have not enough cotton, you're going to find that it's going to leak, and you don't want that. So there we go. That's essentially what you're going for. Now look at that. It's just, you know, cotton coming out of both sides. It's, you know, we can fluff up the ends. It's what's called a pancake wick, where you fluff up the ends that are coming out of the coil. Actually, I would call this more of an hourglass wick, because it sort of looks like, you know, if you look at it like that, it reminds me of an hourglass, you know. So that's what I'm going to call it. Fuck it. I'm making up something new. Because I can do that. This is my video. So there it is. There's the hourglass wick. And now we're going to want to put our cap back on, or actually our barrel and then our cap. With the barrel, the little notch that goes on the set screw. Make sure you do have it pointed the right way, and essentially what you're going to do is just put one side of the cotton in, and then use your thumb and push the other side of the cotton almost directly straight up. Put the barrel over and make sure there's no cotton between the barrel and the bottom, and then just put it into place. Make sure that it's fully seated all the way down, and then tighten your set screw. Now, if you're jumping ahead and you're, you know, doing this, what I've done a few times as a noob is I've built a coil, made it look so nice, gotten it in my deck, and was so excited I went and wicked it. And then as I wicked it, I realized, and I've juiced it, I realized, oh shit, I forgot to check for hot spots. So make sure that when you build the coil, check for hot spots, then wick it. It's an easy thing to do, and it sucks when you have to go and pull out something that, you know, looks great. So the next step is to take your screwdriver and go ahead and start just pushing that cotton down the inside of the barrel, and what you're going to want it to do is to cover the juice holes that are on the outside, just like this. Now I have the cotton sticking through the juice holes. I'm going to fix that. Some people say that that's okay, that's good. Personally, I don't like it. I like it flat with the barrel. I don't like it sticking through the cotton. I don't like the cotton sticking through. Now if you look here, you'll actually see that it is sticking through. But I'm going to fix that in just a moment. I'm just going to use my screwdriver and sort of just push it in. Just using a straight, flat, you know. I just like it to be either flush or in just a little bit, but I do like to have the holes completely covered. Just like that. Alright. Next we're going to prime this. And then we'll put our tank back together and we'll give it a vape. Now when I prime the RBA, the sub-tank RBA deck, what I like to do is I like to put a drop of juice right on that cotton on the outside, on the juice hole. And watch it get sucked into the cotton, and I like to do it again on the other side. And then from the inside I like to put a few drops on each side of the coil, right on top of the cotton. You don't want to put a whole lot. If you end up putting too much juice in here, it'll run right past the coil and cotton and run into your airflow hole and cause at least gurgling, and at the worst it will start leaking through your airflow. So you don't want that. Either one of those things are not a good experience. So again, I'm going to paint the wick a little bit with some juice. Put another couple of drops on the cotton. You don't want the cotton packed in there tight. You just want it covering the holes and as loose in there as you can. You know, as fluffy as you can. That's going to provide you the best wicking. Alright, there's what it looks like when it's wet and primed. Now again, another good tip is even when I put this back into the tank, I'm going to put the barrel cap on right now. And be careful not to cross thread this. It is a rather fine thread and it does have an O-ring on it, so you know it'll hold pretty good. When you put it back in the tank, one good tip is that you should take what's called a couple of dry pulls. And by that I mean you block the airflow, and without pressing the button on your mod, you're going to suck from your drip tip, and just essentially what you're doing is kind of, you know, sucking some juice up into the cotton. Now you may not see any air bubbles because if you properly primed it, the cotton's not dry, so it's not going to, you know, exchange air for juice. But you do want to do those dry pulls just to make sure that you get the wicking started. I'm going to take it off my build stand, and I'm going to now put it back on my mod again. So that's what I said in the beginning, that we're looking for somewhere between 0.5 and 0.7, and this is 0.63. So we're perfect. I'm just going to put some more juice in my tank, because what the hell, since it's open, you know. Make sure when you're filling your Kanger sub-tank mini that you do not fill it above the chimney. I mean, that's the same with the stock coils. I just want to make sure and point that out. You're going to have a mess if you do. And be sure also not to cross thread your tank when you're screwing it back on. Now I'm a little OCD, and what I like to do is make sure that my juice holes are in the window so that I can see them. I don't like when they're hidden behind those metal supports. I want to see those bubbles coming up because that tells me it's wicking. And as long as I know it's wicking, it means I'm not going to get a dry hit. And as you may or may not know, a dry hit is the shittiest thing in the world when it comes to vaping. So there you go. You can see the juice holes. And that's how I like to do it. Put the drip tip back on. Like I say, we're at 0.63 ohms. Right now I still have it at 15 watts, which was the power setting I used to dry fire the coil. I am going to take a couple of hits at 15 watts, but again, much as I pointed out earlier, we're going to take some dry hits on this. Or not dry hits, we're going to take, we're not going to hit the button, we're going to close the airflow, pinch it with one finger on each side, and I'm just going to take a couple of draws on this without hitting the button, just to make sure that the juice is coming up into the wick. Primer puffs, that's what you call that, a primer puff. And as you can see, I did get some air bubbles in there, so that means, you know, some juice did want to go into the coil, so that's good. And now I'm just going to hit this at 15 watts. You do want to, anytime you make a build, you want to start at a lower wattage and sort of work your way up, ramp up to a higher wattage. Start off low. You just want to make sure everything's working good. It's going good. I'm going to bump up the wattage now to about 20 watts. Well, not about 20, exactly 20. As you can see, I'm producing more vapor. I can tell you I'm getting a little more flavor now that it's a little hotter. It's not burning my lips, it's not hot in my mouth by any means. And now I'm just going to have a look, check to make sure I'm getting some bubbles, meaning that it is wicking, that I'm not going to get any dry hits. And if you can see that in there, there are bubbles. I love bubbles. It's a nice, pretty thick, dense vapor for a small little tank. I'm quite happy with that build. I'm just drying off the outside of the tank from my juicy fingers. I'm going to bump this up to 24 watts. And I'm just going to take another primer puff just to make sure that, you know, we're getting some good juice action into my wick. Yeah, we're getting lots of bubbles. That's good. Let's take a hit at 24 watts. That's a pretty satisfying vape. And much like this series is, it's all based on this, baby.
That was easy.
And this concludes the build portion for episode 1. Let's go back to the lounge, we'll vape on it, and we'll talk about it, and we'll wrap this up. Cheers. Hey, welcome back to the lounge. Hopefully you enjoyed that and didn't find it too boring. This build that we just did, this is a really basic, simple build. It's really easy to do. It puts your ohms in it, like I say, about I think it's 0.63. It vapes real nice. It's very simple. It's not complicated. It didn't take us very long, and hopefully you've got this one under your belt, and you can vape away on it and I hope that you find what I found, is that when I build my own coils, there's a certain amount of self-satisfaction, and that feeling of, hey, I did it myself, and that can be a really great feeling, and trust me, if I can do this, you can do this. Anybody can do this. It's not hard. It does take a little bit of time, a little bit of patience, and you need to be willing to do your homework. One of the things I didn't mention at the beginning of the video, one of the things that you're going to want to check out is a thing called Steam Engine. Okay, I believe the website is steam-engine.org. That's the tool I use every single coil I build. In fact, I don't build a coil without going there first, punching in my numbers, seeing what it is that I want to build, and then it kind of lets me know. I tell it what wire, what resistance I'm looking for, whether it's a dual or a single coil, and I mean ultimately, what size it is, and it basically tells me how many wraps I have to do. It does the work for me. It takes the thinking out of it. It takes all the math out. You just punch in the numbers, you come out with what you need to do, you go and do it, and hell, if you don't like my 24 gauge 7 wrap, punch your numbers into Steam Engine. Maybe change the resistance from 0.6 down to 0.4 if that's what you like, and it'll probably tell you to do it in something like 5 wraps or something, and maybe you're going to enjoy that vape more. But the point is, at least with this video, you were able to get started. You got to see how quick and easy it is to make your first build, and take it from there. And don't forget, also stay tuned for episode 2. We'll be putting that up in the next few days or so, and hopefully you found this to be right in line with the concept of this video series.
That was easy.
Because that's what I want to do. I want to provide you a video that you can say, hey, I followed Noob's advice, and shit, that was easy. So, congratulations on your first coil. Cheers.